There are tons of stories of people who have gotten their rights back because they're very simply, they just keep emailing
Just be a squeaky
over and
wheel with
over and
anything.
over and over. Yeah.
Squeaky wheel
And
gets the
so,
grease,
yeah, that's
guys.
how you get their attention. So just don't give up.
Okay. Welcome to Pros Talking Pros. Troy and I are doing kind of a two-part series. We are going to kind of talk you through the issue of maybe transitioning from a traditional publishing scenario to either another traditional publisher or maybe even indie publishing or self-publishing it yourself, and what might take place during that transition. And particularly, Troy has a topic today that we really want you to touch on or like understand and know. And it's something that I haven't even thought about until Troy just said it. So it sounds almost to me like going to the mattresses.
Yeah. It almost is. It
Okay,
almost
so
is.
Troy, tell us what you
So
are thinking these people might need
so
information on.
scenario here. So it used to be, okay, it used to be with publishers that for them to consider your book to still be in print. So a lot of contracts back in the day, and some still do, had clauses that as long as your book was still in print, the contract remained valid. But in print back in the day meant active print runs, or we have books in a warehouse,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera. If a publisher stopped publishing and distributing your books that way, then you could get your rights to your book back. Because what happens is, as the book goes stale for a publisher, they don't promote it anymore. They don't actively print it anymore, but they want to keep it on their books. And this has happened to a lot of people with Harlequin specifically, and some other publishers are particularly notorious for this. So they'll hang on to your rights for as long as they possibly can, because if they go to do a merger or something like that, the only thing that a publisher owns is intellectual property
Assets. Yeah, as
and printed
your
books. That's
IP
all.
assets.
That's what your assets are. Your assets are IP, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't like to, if you're not actively recruiting new authors, or you do things like that, then you basically, your IP, your assets are going away,
Right.
right? So they want to hang on to them as long as possible. You as an author may go, hey, I want that old book back because I want to republish it, or I want to refresh it. I want to make this, I want to start making money off of this book that's on my backlist. But as long as with a publisher, your hands are really tied. And some of them have people's series tied up or things. So the
Mm,
person can't even actually continue the series because they can't control the first three books in the series. There
right.
can be all kinds of reasons you might want to get your rights back from that publisher. But the rub is, you want your rights back. The publisher does not want to give them to you. I mean, that's
Okay.
what it comes down to.
So
And
how do we get our rights
now,
back?
saying in print means the
Print.
ebook's still available, or
Yeah.
it's print on demand. So it
Print on
can be
demand.
printed at any time. And so it takes that clause in the contract, makes it a little
Mm.
fuzzy, you know? And
Yeah.
so so it's like fuzzy handcuffs. They seem fun at the time until you can't find the key. So
So
we
now we go to
want
the
our
mattresses.
rights back. We want our rights back. The
Okay.
first thing is, first of all, find out who to contact at the publisher. Now, the way you do this sometimes is your peers. Uh, there's other ways that you can go about researching on the internet, stuff like that, but finding out who to contact. Now, this is often really, really tricky because again, the publisher doesn't want you to want your rights back. So there was a an editor at Harlequin named Helen something. It was a made up
Oh, I
name because
remember this
Helen kept
story.
remaining alive and doing amazing things for years.
There
Because
was no
basically
Helen.
Helen it was an email inbox, right? And
Yeah.
that was for people who wanted their rights back. And then they would just, as they had time, they would sift through those things. And having worked at a publisher, I understand editors, everybody's busy. Nobody wants to handle that file because there's no money in that file. In
Right.
fact, that's a money loser file. So nobody wants to handle that file. So they would just go into that inbox and they would eventually answer you, right? Calling a publisher is almost impossible nowadays. All the
Mm.
contact is through email, it's through, all the
Chat.
type of things like that, chat. online, maybe, which half the time now is AI.
Yep.
That's what you get first. So it's really difficult. So first of all, find out who to contact. Now, like I say, sometimes you have to talk to your peers. Be a part of organizations like NINC or Mystery Writers of America or something like that, because there are other people in an organization who have gotten their rights back and they know names and who to contact, who to talk
Ooh.
to. Go up to those publishers at conferences in a very public setting. It's much more difficult for them to blow you off and tell you no when there's a whole line of writers standing behind you who think they want to put their work with that publisher. And if you're being embarrassing to them by saying, hey, I want my rights back and I can't find anybody to actually talk to, who's the name? So a lot of times you can get some information, you can get an appointment or you can get a phone number or something, actual information out of people like that. But it may be
Wow.
difficult for you. The second thing is don't give up.
Oh, please don't give
Contact
up
them
ever.
regularly. What I mean by regularly is start with every month. And if things don't go well, get more and more frequent. There are tons of stories of people who have gotten their rights back because they're very simply, they just keep emailing
Just be a squeaky
over and
wheel with
over and
anything.
over and over. Yeah.
Squeaky wheel
And
gets the
so,
grease,
yeah, that's
guys.
how you get that's how you get their attention. So just don't give up. That's the other thing. And the last thing is if you have to, and you have enough titles that it makes sense, get an attorney involved. The minute you get an
Mhm.
attorney involved, I guarantee that you'll get answers. The problem with that is that attorneys cost money,
Yeah.
right? And so so if you don't have, if you're trying to go after one title, man, you're not even going to make your attorney money back by the time you get done with that. But if you've got several titles with a publisher and you're struggling with this, or if you have a group of writers who are all trying to get their titles back from this publisher and struggling with that, get an attorney to represent you and go in there. And I guarantee you, once you do that, you'll get your rights back. They don't want any legal, especially public legal trouble. So,
Right.
and that's the other thing, go public. Don't be afraid to go public on social media everywhere. Tell people I'm trying to at Harlequin get my rights back at whatever the publisher's name is, and put it all over their social media. They don't like to see that, so that's
They
another
don't
good
like
way
to
to get
see
their
this. Yeah.
attention, especially if you have a lot of followers.
I agree with that.
It's
I
hard for
agree
them
with
to
that.
ignore you. Anyway, all those are steps. It sounds like it sounds simple, but it's just not, right?
I think
It gets sticky and
persistence is a
ugly.
key. Persistence is a
Yeah.
key here. I completely concur with that. It's pretty funny how this works for everything you guys do business wise, but really,
Hmm.
yeah, it was funny just recently. I even had clients that were like, Stacey, are you alive? And it was those are you alive, those persistent emails that chipped away at my busyness, that I was able to go, oh my gosh, I
Hmm.
am so sorry, I'm just dropping balls here. Like, and I at least gives me a chance to give them the attention that they feel like they need, the eyeballs.
Hmm.
But yeah, being consistent and being persistent is oftentimes just, it's almost courteous at this point, because like Troy said, a
Hmm.
lot of times these professionals, they're juggling a lot of balls and they're trying to keep everything straight, and sometimes you just get overlooked, or like in some cases you're looking at an email and then it drops into your red file and you don't see it again for a while. So just be
Hmm.
persistent, keep yourself nosy, and keep asking. I love that. I love that. So in this scenario, this is the scenario. You're getting your rights back oftentimes so that you can actually be able to republish your own work and take control of it in another way, right? So
Hmm.
this is in the case of
Yeah.
like certain, maybe your contract is no longer valid, or you feel like you're not getting the attention on your book that you want, in terms of like making sure it
Hmm.
keeps making sales, and you want to mess with the metadata, maybe refresh covers, things like that. And oftentimes publishers, they do one and done situations. They don't often do
Hmm. It's
republishes.
essentially mothballed, and there have been friends of mine that have had books that have been with Harlequin for 20 years, or other
Hmm.
publishers with 20 years, and they've been unable to get the rights back. So that's why I'm saying be persistent. And if you're
Hmm.
not, they will just let it ride for 20
They'll just let
years.
it, yeah, they'll
They'll
just let
just
it.
let it sit there for 20 years, but the contract is technically still valid. And if you step outside the line, I guarantee you they'll notice that. And
This is
they'll come
actually
after you, you
this is
know?
actually one of
This,
those reasons and one of those arguments of why I don't ever opt to go into traditional publishing, because it's one of those things where you kind of get it gets a little snaggy. And if you want, and
Yeah.
if you're an author, that's totally comfortable and capable and willing to just let your book go, oh, whatever, and just let it just launch and then let it eventually just fade to nothing, that's fine. But if you're an author that wants to continually grow and maybe even reuse some of that content, it's oftentimes not a good idea. So I'm always going to throw it
Hmm.
back to print to pro. If you don't know what you want or what you need from your project, but you have specific needs and goals, it's always a good idea to bounce those ideas off of professionals like myself or Troy, who have been in the industry long enough that we can tell you whether or not your publishing choices are going to be right for
Oh,
your project.
yeah.
So we do this. We talk. In fact, I have a course called Paper Trail that's free. It's about an hour and a half. It's broken up into 3 lessons, but it basically walks you through what the different vehicles are for publishing and why one might be more preferred than another for you. So you can always
Right.
check that out at printopro.com and take that and see if you kind of have a good feel for what you want to do. So yeah,
Mhm.
again, if you have any
Yeah.
questions, Troy's been in the trad publishing world forever, and he will definitely be a key
Oh, yeah.
help for when it comes to things like this. If you ever have questions, email him at
Yeah.
Troy at Print to Pro.
And one more point about this, like going forward, especially look at your contracts. The best right now, so, like small press contracts and even a lot of traditional contracts are 4 years and then you get your rights back.
Right.
That's the kind of contract you want. First of all, as a publisher, if you're a small press, you really don't want the rights longer than that. It's just a bunch of responsibility of you keeping up with things supposedly, which some
Right.
small presses just don't, right? But it's a
Right.
lot of work to maintain backlist titles. So the publisher has to decide if they actually want to do that. If it's something that's in a series, that makes a difference, right? But you as an author, like you can refresh something after 4 years, and really by that time, as a publisher, unless you've been actively marketing it as well, it has just really declined in the amount of attention that it's going to get, from the publisher, from their audience, from your audience, etc. So you
Right.
have the ability to refresh that after 4 years. Or if your publisher is doing a good job and they're continuing to market 4 years in, hey, yeah, sign an extension of that contract, but that becomes an option at that point. Usually it's not an obligation, but don't sign a contract that gives you rights as long as it remains in print. That's an old fashioned, terrible
Old fashioned.
contract.
Old.
Nobody does that. If in modern publishing, the majority of publishers do not even attempt to do that. And if you have an agent and they allow you to sign a contract like that, fire that agent and find yourself someone else, because they have no idea what modern publishing is about, what they're doing. 7 years at the max is the max publishing contract I've seen. It's even viable at this point. four
Yeah.
years has become the standard. So
Okay. Cool. Good advice. Okay, everybody. Not welcome. Well, thank you for listening.
welcome for
Stacey's
listening.
welcome for
Yeah.
listening. And yeah, just thanks for listening, you guys. If you have any questions, again, you can hit us up at Troy at Print to Pro or Stacey at Print to Pro, and we are happy to help you on your publishing journey. That was very perky.
Uh,
And we will catch up with you next time. Thanks again, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.